Lots, I'll be in order. And let the roll call show that Commissioner Erickson here, maybe will be, I guess, get done, but that doesn't here. Correct. So right now he has it. Okay, next item, approval agenda, and the request manager to move 6A. We'll just, that's 6E, I guess.
Motion to approve the agenda with that change.
8 seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
And second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And passed. Reports, reports.
The other thing I wanted to just point out is I did include a copy of the memo from IT manager Yost on cybersecurity reporting requirements. We are, and as a local government unit, we are under that requirement, but we're also under that requirement because we do something for the city as well, most specifically the billing for sewer. So it's a memo to the city council, but I thought it was important for the commission to be ready.
Okay, anything else? Anything wrong?
Nope.
Okay, I'll make a move to, more to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, we already have that, sir.
Oh, is it there? What's that?
We can straight to it.
Behind it. All right. Okay, reports, and we don't need to move on that.
No, we do not.
Okay, then we'll move on to the regular agenda. Employee and updates.
Yes, Mr. Chair, in your packet for memo 2438, I did have a recommendation to update the on-call pay rate for field staff. This would be both for electric and water. Those rates haven't been updated, at least since I've been here. So if I just kind of use the standard inflationary adjustment, those would increase by about $5 for every 8 hours. There's a table in the memo. I think it's fair to make sure that those on-call pay rates continue to increase along with inflation and everything. So we're making a recommendation to update the employee handbook for the on-call rate. I do, just so the commission is aware, there are a lot of changes coming on HR law, which requires to do other updates to the employee handbook next year as well. So there'll be a few others, but I at least want to get this in place and have it effective January 1st with the new fiscal year.
Okay, and none of that has to do with the fee schedule anyway, it's not like every time.
No, this is strictly in the employee.
Need action on that?
I do, if I can get a motion to I have a suggested motion written in the memo to update the employee handbook to increase the on-call rate by $5 per 8 hour period.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Back that. Keep.
That's you.
Okay, well, I think, yeah, you did lay out our, pretty much covered everything here. I guess the only thing that boiled down to here, find that the criteria, and not here yet either, but you made it follow.
I went through it, yeah.
What, the only thought I had, I wanted the commission to weigh in was the criteria that we give to the school when they select, they've got a process how they select students, the computerized process, but sometimes you throw in a different, what you kind of looking for, and it'll throw a name.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought about adding they come over here to a meeting and then tour the plant. if we should add that or not. But. You guys,
No, yeah, it's just fine. Yeah. Yeah, so for Paul, I guess the big thing is if there's anything in the memo that you have any concerns with, and then just the question of the attendance required.
Would be nice if they come in, but I don't know if they need to require that, I guess, so much.
yeah, I guess I'm. Either way with it, you know, I don't either, we talk what Dan was here.
Well, and so what you could do is, if that's, I guess, Paul, is there anything else in your mind you're concerned with? I guess that's good for us for now. If you want to table it, until next time, so we get Dan's, make a decision based on all the feedback that we've received. There's no reason we have to decide on this today.
The other thing too, we talked about it was, you put a broad enough timeline on it. The executive comes here and do a physical appearance. It wouldn't have to be that summer, you know, maybe. The timeline wouldn't get the money in, they have to complete some time. You get that, my thoughts, if we leave it broad enough, time, or long enough time spread. And you probably have a good point there, requiring it might be. We
could just put it in a convention, have it referenced.
Recommend you prefer.
Okay, fine, yeah, we can do that. We can put that in the instructions.
The other part of it out, this is for Chrissy, and you're gonna be contacting Becky to,
Yeah, I can contact her.
for these requirements. You can go get Paul or.
Yep.
try to-
Yeah, I think so.
You can do a general with her, everything, figure it out.
Okay.
All right, so, well, I think it doesn't require action anyway. Or not.
Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt if you just wanted to make a motion to approve a scholarship to be administered by the Dollars for Scholars program. And then,
That with all the conditions. that-
yeah, and then what Christie can do is, she can fill out the scholarship information stuff that'll get sent to the school district so they can process.
Yeah, if you have the contact with Becky, yeah, that's sure, she's very good to work.
Okay.
This is for her, if you want to, it'd be a good process.
But I think it'd be good to have official.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Thank you. Give us a little bit of we'll get on the stage. The awarded. The East Central, their connections to their. Probably will have a visible here. Okay, commission report discussion.
So, the only thing I just want to take a moment, and just check in terms of the reports that you see in the packets every month, the financial reports and everything else. I think it's always important to make sure that, you're still finding all of those valuable. If there's some things that, take, for example, the EV report, if you're not looking at those anymore, and those have run their course, we can take some things off, and not have to spend the time doing that. If there's other things that you would like to see, whether it's monthly or quarterly, I just want to give the commission the opportunity to give some feedback on the meeting structure and the reports that are presented, to see if there's anything that should be changed. I just want to give you an opportunity to do that. So I don't know if either of you have any thoughts on what you're seeing, if it's too much, too little, that could be presented better. Really just an open-ended question.
Well, it's a written reports. I think they're certainly very helpful. Save the time next meeting, and we do have a discussion on a lot of things. We can always pull it off or ask at the meetings. The reports have, I guess, in my mind, have been done with a third one.
Mhm.
You all get charged and stuff, they just,
So like, for example,
cost there, it is there.
so like, for example, there's the Simba's actually asking the question too. There's the Simba, data sheet that's in. You guys look at that?
I can't honestly say that everything.
I breeze through it really fast.
Do you find it informative or?
No.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it's
No, that's why I'm asking is if it's something, that just isn't of value, I can let Simba, it'll say Simba time too, so they don't have to read that document each month as well. Like, and like I said, with the EV report that shows sales every month, is that, you need to feel that part of the EV report, that is ours, that's something that happens. So again, if you're not looking at it, then maybe that's something that
well, that's probably the only one that I looked at.
the EV one.
I'm just, for this. Different reasons on this feedback to this one. Yeah, but when you get into all this metrics and stuff. There are a lot of pulled over my head. If something ever does come up, if you think need their attention, that you call.
What about the Simba meeting minutes? You,
Those I do read.
okay, perfect. So maybe I'll take off
I
the,
do, not every month, but I don't give.
so maybe I'll take off that Simba handout, but I'll keep the minutes in. And we'll keep the EV reports and we'll keep the financial reports. I did share with Dan that this topic was on there, it has to be just think about, so. He can, if he thinks about, I'll share with him what you guys talked about, and if he's okay with it.
Well, if anything local, the local. I think we do want to see that.
The financials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the financial. Okay. I don't need it, I wasn't looking for any action, but it's okay.
Yeah, and again, if anything dramatic is happening, you're gonna tell. Right. All right. Mr.
Yeah, I think we should proceed. I would suggest moving forward.
Okay.
Really what, we're looking for is, just some input from the commission. The staff have been working on, well, let me back up. As you may recall, the commission authorized a feasibility study to look at adding. We've been working with DGR. I don't have their, report yet. Hoping to get that, relatively soon. The approach that they've been working on is new units, 2 new units, which means, you know, you'd have to have some sort of enclosure for the building, or, don't have a decision on, sort of recommendation or location yet. But going down the path of 2 brand new generations. We've also, were approached by Elk River Municipal. They are decommissioning their power. And they have 2 old generators that they're looking for a new home for. And so staff internally have been thinking about it, looking into it. And investigating. Given what the understanding that these engines are old, however, they have very low operating. So these are pretty good engines. You know, we've looked into questions regarding parts and service and things like that. But there is a general strategical discussion that we wanted to throw out to you folks to see your thoughts on relocating used engines versus the option of going with new ones. Now, if we do new units, obviously that comes with warranties and you're using current technology and it means there's parts and people who worked on it and others that are working with it. The warranty is really kind of the big thing. I think of it as like cars. It's like buying a new car. You're gonna pay for it. You're gonna pay for that upfront cost. But hopefully all you do is change your oil once in a while. Good. The upriver option is intriguing because it is significantly cheaper, but it is a used engine. Staff, and Scott can talk to this in more detail if you would like, but staff have explored parts availability and service contract availability, and it seems pretty good out there for it's a Worthington and a Cooper Bessemer that Upriver has. I don't think we could interconnect both of them. I think we would be limited on size for myself, but it, like a used car, it's used, which means, I think there is a little bit of a risk there. We have discussed it with Civil, and they, at first blush, this would require a Civil board decision, which we have brought to them. But at first blush, it would seem that we would qualify for their quick start payment, whether it's a new unit or an old unit. We wouldn't get it. They wouldn't discount it because it's an older unit. They're looking for it. So that being said, when I do my back of the envelope bar napkin kind of calculations, if we went with a used engine set, we could probably pay off those bonds in, I would say, less than 10 years. Whereas if we did a new one, we would be looking at a 20-year bond, and the capacity payments, not sure. I'm not sure how this cash flow is. So really, I guess we'll start with the first strategic conversation, which is we generally have been working under the assumption that the commission's perspective on generation is that it needs to pay for itself. Given all the work we're doing on the distribution grid to be able to backfeed the town in multiple directions, the need for local generation is less than it was even 20 years ago. In addition, the new MISO rules, the fact that these are being sold in the capacity market, means if there is a system-wide shortage and there is a grid problem, that we could be ordered to run and still do billing 5,000 pounds, which means that our customers are not getting any benefit, any more benefit than our neighboring Nexus and East Central Energy. So again, question comes up is we should, for instance, ratepayers subsidize the overall grid. That's an argument. We've been working under the assumption that the commission really has a preference for not a direction where generation pays for itself. I can tell you that my understanding is that New Prague is looking at putting a new generation. They are putting a little bit of money into the project. They're not paying for it strictly out of their existing, out of the capacity payments that they get from Civil. We're still hopeful that we could do that here, but we won't know until we get the engineering. So if the commission's perspective on that is different, please let us know. But we are working on this assumption that we don't want ratepayers subsidizing the generation. But we would be interested if generation cash flow, then we could then use that money to help keep rates lower than what they would otherwise. So be basically a rate hedge at that. But we're really looking at this from an economic decision, not necessarily a local reliability decision, because we don't know how much it really does add to reliability of other VF we're already with our distribution factor. So if that's true, so then the next question comes down to new equipment versus used equipment. Like I said, with the used equipment, there is inherently more risk because it's old. Something could happen, and then there's no warranty on that. And if it's too extreme, the engine could be damaged. On the flip side, I think there's the potential for higher reward because it is such a cheaper unit that with the capacity payments, if we put all those capacity payments towards the engine in the first 7 years, we might pay off those bonds, and then everything after 7 years or 10 years of operation is revenue that goes rate increases. So that could have a long-term effect. So we'd be making an upfront investment, we might break even for the first decade. But then after that, for as long as we can run the engines, it's creating, it's a new revenue stream rather than just relying on things. But like I said, there's a little bit of a calculated risk associated. So before we go too far down this path, or much further down this path, I wanted to have a conversation with the commission to say, is there a deal breaker in there to you guys where you would say, no, we want to be very conservative, very, we're gonna put in a new generation, we're gonna do, that has a warranty, we want that certainty has value for us, it's really important. Or on the flip side, are you comfortable if, and again, we're not looking to make a decision, we just want to make sure that we don't go down a path that is going, where we already know the answer is going to be no, we'd rather spend our time on other things. Is the commission comfortable with a little bit of risk to go with some used units with the knowledge that that there's also the potential for some warrant on the back end as well. So generally speaking, my question is, you guys have a problem with used equipment at the generator level? Or not, is that a deal breaker? And again, it's one of those things where we can continue to kind of move down this path. It's not like we're gonna go pick them up tomorrow. So I want you guys to start thinking about this, but right now, if there's just a real concern that the risk is not something that we want to entertain, it'd be nice. I'm looking for just some thoughts. Guys, what do you think? The used units, we're probably looking at 3 million. Bring them up here and put them in place. The new units, we're probably looking at between 6 and 9 million. Again, difference. But again, I don't have a, that's my cocktail napkins, Matt. I'm doing that.
Well, I think we have talked a little bit about it. We should probably increase our generation, kind of the general mindset or.
Well, that's the
First
question.
I think that would be 50 and preferred. Or shouldn't we increase our generation? Do we use or whatever, probably. Because you talked about we're getting different new beams.
Well, so yeah, so let me go back, let's explore that a little bit. We've been working under the assumption that the commission was only interested in adding new generation base force.
Yeah.
So to me, what that means is that no, we're not interested in just adding generation. We're only interested in adding generation because of cost of capital. And the reason why we've kind of gone down that path is because we have put so much effort into our distribution cap plan so that we can backfeed the town from either the north or the south. So it is different than it was years ago, where we only had the one transmission line coming into town, where it's just could have occurred anywhere along the transmission line and we would be isolated. Given that we've got 3 interconnection points with the grid, that is, in my mind, less of an issue. However, different communities are different ways. There are some communities, and I would say New Frank's one, where they want to be able to cover the entire town if they need to. There are other communities, and the Elk River is a perfect example. They are planning on decommissioning their last generators and not have anything.
So they're going to totally depend on their own side.
They're totally dependent on the grid. And I can tell you there's a lot, as utilities get bigger, you see less of them being able to cover the town. I mean, the Rochesters and Bostons, and they don't have the generation capabilities. Shakopee, no. When you look at small towns who are, tend to be more on the end of radials, like a Grand Array, more, they typically have full generation capabilities, but again, they're in the spending to their infrastructure.
But that's gonna be the next. Shelter. If we don't plan on getting smaller. Get them a mindset as it keeps growing, so.
Well, the grid is
They
building up,
don't, they have to put the wall in, they don't.
and the grid is building up around, which is why we have 3 entry points now instead of the 1 from many years ago. So I guess, yeah, Jack, if we want to back up to that, I guess the question then is the commission, would the commission be comfortable with not being able to cover the entire town on its worst day? You know, our peak, which is 14 megs, right now we only have a little over 12 megs of generation, so we're already
Yeah.
on that worst hour of the year. If that's important to the commission, then then that means that your requirement that this cash flows or that generation pays for itself is not true. Because then you might be looking at collecting some money through rates to pay for some of the generation.
Well, in there again, the rate payer want to think that, you know, something we, rather than, but if we have the rate pay, we don't want anybody to be without power. We love it that we can have our lights on in town and you go down to the ball or whatever, they don't. So,
Right.
and that's
No, but I'm
almost there.
right, but let's explore that option then. So in that scenario, what happens is the southern transmission line goes out. So what we're doing with the cap plan is if that happens, we can backfeed through the north. And keep, as long as the grid is intact, we can cover the town. So if the northern transmission line goes out, we feed from the south, and if the south goes out, we feed from the north. Right now, we can't do that, which is why we have the generation. But once the cap plan is complete, then we would be able to transfer power back. So that's where I wanted to bring up the issue that the local reliability then comes into play for something other than just that N-1 scenario, which is the loss of 1 transmission line or 1 substation to get back again. So then you're getting into a situation where something happens on our system. But again, you run into the problem of if it's on our system, if we can't get power there via the grid, how do we get power there via power plant? If it's a local distribution issue, you've got to run through some scenarios there. The only other thing that comes up, which is something we have always been concerned about, is if the grid collapses or is threatening with collapse, and we get directions from MISO to do a remote blackout. In that scenario, since we have sold the power plant as a capacity asset to the market, that is independent from our ratepayers, and therefore we would be required to run and still do the same rolling blackouts that Connexus, Xcel Energy, and Elk River are doing to maintain the regional, in which case, again, if we're paying into the generation because we wanted to have it here, in that scenario, all the other ratepayers in the region are benefiting from the generation, whereas it's expensive ratepayers who are paying. Are you okay with that? Because, you know, if you take the philosophy that you want to have enough generation to cover the town on its worst hour, then what you're potentially saying is there may be situations in which generators running, but they're not benefiting. They're benefiting the whole grid, but not exclusively our ratepayers. But how do you want to balance that?
I shouldn't be speaking for Dan. But I know his, I've heard him in the past, for subsidizing, he's totally not on this. And nothing to that for this past.
So that's where we started from, which is it needs to cover its own. It's got to pay for itself. So assuming that, then our next decision was, can we have an option for new units, an option for used units? Does the commission have any concerns one way or the other?
I don't. I think you guys would have to work on used units, but they're comfortable with the new. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, maybe. Other part of that would be, and we don't have crystal ball here, how much garbage we pull in all farm, how many years are we looking at getting on new units? A new one, and all hypothetically, they probably can get 4 years, but then how much do we run people? But
Well, we get paid, right, we get paid for capacity, for the energy. So we get paid to have them functional and on this fault buildings. We're not getting paid for every kilowatt hour. We're getting paid for the size of the unit every month because it's there as an insurance. Then when we run, then SIPA pays for the fuel and things like that. But it really is, it's an asset that we're looking at for. The generators that we have are not here to make energy. They're here to provide capacity to keep the grid stable. It's really how we tend to look at it on the electrical side of things. And Paul, to your point, I said the same thing. If staff aren't the ones, if they're not supportive of this, there's nothing I can say that's going to convince them. And it's been Scott and his team who keep going. I think we can make this work. I don't know, Scott, if you want to add anything.
We've done some legwork on it, say the part sentiment, we've did some research, it's not a brand that we have, so we add another name to our already existing dog from every town in our power plant, which is what it is. But parts, service, that kind of stuff, we found plenty of resources and stuff out there, people who come in and do stuff if it is made or bigger stuff. Kind of a lot of the same ones we're using now, but there's a few more that we've added in there that would be able to service that brands of engines. The old versus new, I mean, they don't build it like they used to.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we keep going back to. We've talked to a few other people that are out and about and kind of, I guess, way more immersed in the small generation like we have been. And I'm like, talk to a couple guys and I'm like, am I nuts for thinking this or even looking at it? And one says, yeah, go new, this don't like the old stuff. And the other guy's like, that old one, and his opinion is that old one's gonna sit there and run circles around that new stuff all day long. But it's, opinion on it. It's from the surface, it's a good looking, they're both look pretty decent. I mean, we definitely would do a bunch more, do our due diligence on maintenance records. Checking it over, we've talked to a couple different contractors of guys that move them, and they're moving these all the time to move it.
Clear project.
So there is some resource guys out there that are comfortable doing it, that are doing them often. Kind of, we've been bouncing it back and forth. I kind of keep going to the guys like, what do we want? Do you want push button or do you want another old girl? And everybody's kind of either one, there's no big preference and no huge dislike of the old units versus the new units, so.
And I think that's what Scott said is really important, because if we didn't have a whole bunch of units already, I don't think we'd be entertaining this idea. The fact that we've got a Superior, that's the Caterpillar, ranging in ages from the 1950s till now. We have staff and we're gonna have to continue to have the capability to be able to work on those. So I think that was part of it too.
That's what I do. But I don't start heritage a little bit, I guess, and I'm very confident that these guys, they're not gonna be here forever either.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. And Scott and I talked about that as well. I mean, I think we have, we've got our internal processes set up that, when the time comes, I think we can go out and find a diesel mechanic who is looking for
Well, I want to take my shoes off and walk in.
But, you know, I think if we could find, I think when the time comes, we would look for somebody who wants to really kind of see it as their career. But I don't think we're gonna go out and find somebody who has experience working as a career, has experience working on it. We're just gonna need to find somebody who's very mechanical and is willing to roll up their sleeves and learn it and be our engine whisperer. You know, we feel pretty confident that, given our location, that there are people in the area who are like that. And we could be able to find someone. But the point is very valid. I think that's why a lot of other utilities are actually going away from it. The other ones are push button start, which I could do. But then on the flip side, that means you have to have a service contract with somebody like Singular. And if the push button doesn't work, now you're on the phone calling up somebody out of the cities and you might be offline for a week. Whereas now with these old engines where we've got people that's what they work on, something happens, they would start tearing it apart right away and get us back up quickly. So again, there's pros and cons with both sides of it. And that's why we wanted to have the discussion.
I think we might be looking for somebody. I think it's kind of all good me, but sure we'll get that going before we have the problem.
Well, we were talking about engines that we want to run for at least 20 years, if not longer, so. I don't think I will be here in 20 years.
But we don't want to leave somebody else. That's it.
And there is, I mean, it's expensive, but there is options to turn the old units to push button. I mean, it's an expensive process and whatever, but there is, if it got to that point, there is still hope for them, or kind of if it gets to that point, there is options for that too. So to upgrade the older units too. As it went over time, if it got to be a huge issue, there would be somewhat of a way there, so.
So I guess, are there any big red flags that you guys see where you're like, just stop, don't, you guys are crazy, just leave that alone and go down this path?
Sure, it really can. I mean, we know we have to, this has to be on our burner, maybe that be front burner compared to. We have to be on it, I guess. I think.
Well, the SIPA is hungry for capacity. They are calling me and asking, hoping that we kind of move forward on something. So I could see the commission needing to make a decision at some point next year. Probably even early next year. And just so you know, I have talked about this with DGR. They're concerned, you know, with going with used units. In talking with them, the only projects they've ever done have been new units, at best putting a new unit in an old building. They have not done a relocation of an old generator. At least that's what I remember them telling me. So from their perspective, they have concerns. But as I've told people, you kind of have a bunch of old farmers up here in Princeton, and you kind of just make things work, so we're less intimidated by not knowing exactly how it might go together, but knowing we'll figure it out, and if anything, we'll build it ourselves. So, you know, again, it kind of depends. That's why I think it's interesting for us. This is why I think Alberta's gotten out of it, is because they're a bigger utility. They're focusing more on having that push button technology, whereas we're still a little bit more independent. Trying to find ways to make it. So I just want to be transparent. DGR does have concerns, but talking with SIPA and the research that staff have done, we think there are ways we can address those concerns.
I'll let them other, I want to do it if we look at relocating generator, if we don't have the, structure, we have to, 50% landlocked here.
I mean, ideally would be an addition off the backside of the existing plant. As long as air permitting allows, that'd be,
It is a question.
Mhm.
We
That
don't.
would be part of the cost of.
Yeah, either we are looking at adding it here or building a new facility or new building somewhere else. We don't have a location or anything like that. Yes, that would be, those are the two. And that obviously would then also play into the cost of the calculation. So, gets us back to the original premise, which is we want the generation to be able to pay for itself. So doesn't work for that.
So if we have to locate it off of this location, would that create more issue connecting with everything then? But
If the recommendation comes back to relocate it, it's because it's going to be the cheaper option.
well, or we're gonna have more lines, more teams across.
So no deal breakers at the moment, because we keep moving forward.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. No, not.
We're at the end.
Mr. Chair, if I can just have a second. Just want to say how much I appreciated being able to be here and see how you guys work. I've always been 100% behind the PUC, and I'll continue to be that. But due to family medical concerns, I'm stepping down and resigning my position as commissioner as of June today. City Hall and Keith both have my resignation letters. So with that, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Favor?
Aye.